Hey guys, tonight we are not going to talk about epic sieges, or knights in shining armor, or dragons. We're going to talk about something far more important: leaks. We're going on a journey to a medieval castle, but we're not here to attack it. We're here to fix it. Picture a castle in your mind. A huge gray stone fortress, silhouetted against a stormy sky. It looks eternal, doesn't it? As if it were carved from a single, indestructible piece of the planet. Well, tonight we're going to shatter that myth. A castle is not a statue. It's a high-maintenance, constantly failing, catastrophically expensive piece of architecture that is in a permanent, losing battle with its one true enemy, the weather. And you're the one who has to go up on the roof in the rain. Let's be honest, you'd probably last about one winter here before you beg to go back to your drafty apartment. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. As always, feel free to post your location and what time it is where you are. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in the middle of the Inner Bailey, and it is, of course, raining. It's not a dramatic, cinematic thunderstorm. It's a miserable, persistent, soul-crushing English drizzle. The kind of wet that doesn't just land on you, it seeps into you. The air is cold, and smells of whetstone, wood smoke, mud, and something else, ... A sharp, sour, tangy smell you can't quite place. It's the latrine, mixed with the damp straw from the stables. It's the perfume of the 14th century, and it's not pleasant. You are here to work. You're a new apprentice, a rough mason in training, and you've just been assigned to the maintenance crew. You look up at the castle keep, the massive, square tower that dominates the skyline. It looks ... solid. It looks permanent. The man next to you, a grizzled, sour-faced individual with stone dust in his eyebrows, just grunts. He sees you looking. "She's a thirsty beast," he mutters, not to you, but to the rain. And a leaky one. This is the great central myth we're here to bust. We think of castles as being built in a single, heroic, construction montage-worthy event. They raise the walls, they finish the keep, they have a big feast, and ... scene. Roll credits. The truth is, a castle is never finished. This is the mainstream historical fact of your new life. A medieval castle is a living, breathing, constantly evolving patchwork of repairs. That keep you're looking at? The foundation was laid in 1180. The upper two floors were rebuilt in 1250 after a fire. The new windows you see were punched through the wall in 1310, and the roof you're about to curse was reslated just 6 years ago. It's not a single building. It's a 200-year-old construction site. It's less Camelot and more condemned seaside motel. And the single greatest, most relentless enemy it faces is not a trebuchet. It's not a rival baron. It's not a dragon. It's that miserable, quiet, persistent drizzle. It's water. Water is the universal solvent, the agent of chaos, the quiet, patient vandal that will bring this entire 1,000-ton monument crumbling to its knees if you let it. Water finds cracks. Water freezes in those cracks, and with the slow, unstoppable power of a hydraulic press, it expands. It turns tiny fissures into gaps, and gaps into crevices, and crevices into catastrophic failures. Water soaks into the massive oak beams of the roof, inviting rot, fungus, and wood-boring beetles to a private, all-you-can-eat buffet. Water seeps through the walls, turning the expensive imported tapestry in the Lord's chamber into a moldy, dripping rag. It pools in the cellars, ruining the barrels of ale and flour. Water is the siege that never ends. You follow your new boss, the master mason, as he begins his morning rounds. You're not just a builder. You are a castle doctor. Your job is a constant, daily, preventative war against entropy. You walk the perimeter of the curtain wall. You're not looking for armies. You're looking for damp patches. Dark, greenish-black stains on the stone that show where moisture is seeping through. You're looking for cracks. You're looking for crumbled bits of mortar on the ground, a sure sign that the grout between the stones is failing. You come to a corner tower, and the master mason stops. He just stares at the base. See it? He grunts. You see, a wall. He sighs, a sound of profound disappointment, and points. The smell. You lean closer, and you get it. This brings us to a quirky tidbit about castles. You know that smell? That castle smell we think of as romantic and ancient? That scent of old stone, dust, and a hint of wood smoke? It's the smell of decay. It's the smell of water winning. It's mildew. It's damp rot. It's the subtle, musty, fungal smell of stone that has been wet for so long. It has its own tiny, miserable ecosystem. You are smelling the slow, geological timescale dissolving of the very building you're in. But this smell is different. It's that sour, sharp, latrine smell. The garderobe chute, the mason says, pointing up. It's blocked. Again. You follow his finger. High up on the wall, a stone opening the toilet chute is choked with ... well, you know. And the rain, instead of washing it down, is causing it to overflow, seeping into the wall. The acidic waste, mixed with the rain, is eating the mortar for lunch. It's a small problem that, left for a year, could compromise the integrity of a 5-foot-thick wall. Historians and castellologists still argue whether the primary long-term destroyer of medieval castles was warfare sieges and the deliberate slighting or demolition of a castle by its conqueror, or if it was this quiet, relentless, and catastrophically expensive war against the weather. When you read the castle accounts, the financial records, the answer seems pretty clear. The Lord's biggest annual expense wasn't his army. It was his roofer, his glazier, and his mason. And those guys knew they had a captive market. Right, the mason says, giving you a shove. You're new. Go find the gong farmer. This one's yours. He's not joking. Your clothes, you realize, aren't just damp. They are aspiring to be puddles. This is your life now. You are a professional leak hunter, a damp warrior, well, right now, you're the guy who has to go talk to the sewage specialist. This isn't a story of glorious construction. This is a story of quiet, desperate, and never-ending repair. You don't get to find the gong farmer. Not yet. The master mason, let's call him Thomas, because he looks like a Thomas. A man with a face like a poorly laid brick isn't finished with his rounds. And you, his new, damp apprentice, are his shadow. This man, the master mason, is not just a foreman. He is the magister operis, the master of the works. This is the mainstream historical fact of the castle's entire existence. This one man is the chief engineer, head architect, project manager, and lead diagnostician for a multi-million-dollar piece of military hardware. He's the most important non-noble in this entire drafty pile of rocks. He's paid more than the captain of the guard, and he has a permanent residence inside the walls. He is, in modern terms, the head of structural engineering for a vital piece of national infrastructure, and he has the perpetually grumpy, over-caffeinated demeanor of someone who knows it. You follow him up a narrow, spiraling set of stairs. Vice, so tight you have to turn your shoulders to climb. The stone steps are worn in the center, dished and slippery with damp. You emerge onto the wall walk, the flat, open-air walkway that runs along the top of the main curtain wall. The wind up here is a different beast. It's not a drizzle. It's a horizontal, spiteful lashing of cold rain. It tries to peel your wet woolen tunic from your body. Thomas doesn't even blink. He's not looking at the glorious misty view of the valley. He's looking down. He walks the entire 300-yard perimeter, his eyes scanning. What's he looking for? Cracks. He stops at one of the crenellations, the high, tooth-shaped bits of the battlement. He puts his boot on it. He kicks it. You flinch as the half-ton block of limestone wobbles. Thomas just grunts. Mortar's gone. A tiny hairline crack, invisible to you, has let water in. That water froze last winter, popping the mortar joint like a tiny geological explosion. Now this entire block is loose. It's a minor, quiet, invisible failure. But in a siege, it's a piece of cover that will fail. In a storm, it's a piece of masonry that will be torn loose and crash into the courtyard, or, God forbid, the stable roof. He makes a mark on the stone with a nub of charcoal from his pouch. That's a job for tomorrow. A simple, quiet repointing. He stops again, halfway along the wall, and does something ... strange. He puts his ear against the cold, wet stone of the inner wall. He taps it. Tap ... He uses a small, specialized iron hammer he carries, but sometimes he just uses his knuckles. This is the quirky tidbit of his trade. He is listening to the wall. A medieval castle wall is not a solid block of stone. That would be insane and catastrophically expensive. It's a sandwich. You have an outer skin of beautiful, expensive, precisely cut ashlar blocks. You have an inner skin of cheaper, rougher cut stone. And the entire 5 to 10 foot gap in the middle is filled with ... Well, garbage. It's a rubble core, a packed slurry of flint, gravel, broken bits of stone, and most importantly, hot lime mortar. Thomas is listening for a dead sound, a dull, hollow thud. A dead sound means water has gotten in through that loose crenellation, or a bad roof joint, and has washed out a section of the rubble core. It's created a void, an empty, cold, damp pocket inside the wall. A singing, or live sound high, solid tink. Tink means the core is solid. He hears a thud. It's a sound that makes his entire face tighten. A void, a cold, a weakness. Water is in the heart of his wall. Left alone, that void will fill with more water. In winter, it will freeze, expand, and one day, it will simply blow the entire face of the wall off. He marks this spot too. A different, more urgent mark. This isn't a simple repair. This is surgery. This means scaffolding. This means drilling a new hole, mixing a fresh, hot batch of liquid lime grout, and pouring it into the wall's guts until the void is full. It's a messy, expensive, and totally non-negotiable repair. This brings up the great scholarly debate. What was this guy? Historians and architects still argue whether the master mason was a hands-on foreman who rose from the ranks, or a kind of gentleman architect who designed from a drawing board. Was he a muddy boots contractor, or a parchment and compass intellectual? Looking at Thomas, who is currently pressing his thumb into a suspicious-looking patch of moss to gauge the damp, the answer seems to be both. He can read and write. He has plans, drawn on expensive vellum, locked in his office. He understands geometry and how to calculate the thrust of a vault. But he also knows, from a smell and a sound, exactly what is wrong with this 5-foot-thick wall, and he knows how to mix the mortar to fix it. He is a blue-collar engineer, and he's the only thing keeping this entire project from collapsing. He moves on, his rounds continuing into the great keep itself. He's not looking at the tapestries or the Lord's fancy new bed. He's looking at the junctions, where wood meets stone. A wooden window frame, a massive oak door jamb. These are the weak points. Stone is stable. Wood ... wood moves. It swells in the damp. It shrinks in the dry. It rots. It gets beetles. He finds a window on the west side, the weather side. He presses his thumb hard into the oak frame, right at the bottom corner where the rain pools. His thumb sinks in. A 1/4 inch. The wood is soft, punky, rot. A tiny, almost invisible gap between the stone sill and the wood frame has been letting water in for years. Now the frame itself is failing. This, in turn, is wicking moisture into the wall, right into that rubble core he's so obsessive about. He grunts. That's a job for the carpenter, the master carpenter. But it's his problem, because it's his wall. He'll have to go have a ... conversation ... with the carpenter. A fun, professional jurisdiction battle. He finally turns to you, his inspection complete. His face is grim. He's found 6 new, quiet, invisible failures, and it's not even breakfast. Right, he says, his voice like gravel. Gong farmer. Now, the chute by the west tower. Go. You're dismissed. Finally released from the presence of the castle's grumpy high priest, only to be sent on an errand to find the keeper of the sewage. You hurry off, the smell of damp rot and the memory of that wobbly, half-ton stone block fresh in your mind. You're shuffling away from Master Thomas, his gravelly dismissal still ringing in your ears. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, and you absolutely cannot refuse, is to find the Gong farmer. The Gong farmer, you've learned, is the horribly polite name for the man who gets to clean the castle's toilets. You're heading toward the west tower, the source of that ... aroma that's managing to cut through the rain and wet stone. You are, quite honestly, relieved. It's a disgusting job, but at least it's not being stared at by Thomas, who seems to find fault in the very way you breathe. You don't get 10 steps across the muddy bailey. Oi, apprentice. The shout comes from a low, rickety-looking wooden scaffold, lashed with rope to the side of the inner keep. A journeyman mason, a wiry man named Will with a face like a cheerful leather pouch, is waving at you. Master's orders. He said your hours till noon. Get up here. The wall's spitting. You have never felt such a profound spiritual wave of relief and disappointment all at once. You are saved from the latrine and condemned to the scaffold. In the rain, you scramble up the wet, slippery rungs. The scaffolding is a simple, terrifying affair of poles driven into the ground, with cross ledgers and boardwalks held together by rope. It sways just a little as you climb. Right, Will says, not even looking up from his work. See this? He points to the wall. You're looking at a patch of beautiful, smooth, gray ashlar stone. It looks fine. Look closer. You lean in. The grout between the stones ... it's just gone. It's a dry, dusty, sandy canyon. Will reaches out with a small, pointed metal tool, a raking iron, and just ... scrapes. A cascade of grit and powdered lime pours out. Failing, he says, with a certain satisfaction. Right on schedule. This is your job for the next 4 hours. You are given a similar tool, and you are told to rake out all the dead joints in this 10-foot square patch. It is the most tedious, gritty, awful work you have ever done. You scrape, scrape, scrape. Cold, damp, gritty dust flies into your face, clinging to your wet eyelashes. Your fingers, already numb from the cold, are cramping around the metal tool. Why ... is it failing? You ask, trying to sound remotely intelligent. Will stops and gives you a look. Because it's supposed to. This right here is the single most important mainstream historical fact of medieval construction. And it's the exact opposite of what you'd think. The mortar is designed to fail. It's sacrificial, Will explains, warming to his topic. It's a contest, see? Stone, mortar, and water. Water gets in. It freezes. It pushes. Something has to give. Now, what did you rather replace? This cheap, sandy gunk? He digs his iron into the joint, and more sand pours out. Or that. He taps the massive, perfectly cut, half-ton block of limestone. He has a point. Replacing a single, custom-cut ashlar block is a building crisis. It involves complex rigging, a team of quarrymen, and a lot of shouting from Master Thomas. Replacing the mortar is ... this. It's a Tuesday. The mortar must be softer than the stone, he says, like a prayer. It breathes. It lets the water out. If we built this with that hard Roman stuff, the water'd get trapped. It'd freeze. And it'd crack the stone. It'd blow the whole face of the wall off. It would. This is the castle's secret. It's not strong because it's rigid. It's strong because it's flexible. It's a building that is designed to be in a constant, quiet, managed state of disassembly. Your joints are raked. Your hands are raw. Now, says Will, go fetch the mix. He points to a massive, trough-like wooden box near the base of the keep, covered by a crude canvas sheet. You climb down, your knees shaking. You lift the canvas. The smell is ... interesting. It's not the sour organic stench of the latrine. It's a sharp, earthy, almost clean smell. It's the smell of lime. This isn't a modern dry bag mix. This is lime putty. This is the quirky tidbit of the whole operation. To make this, they took limestone or chalk, burned it in a kiln for days to create quicklime, a volatile, nasty calcium oxide. Then they slaked it, adding water in a process that hissed, steamed, and boiled with a furious exothermic chemical rage. This created lime putty, a thick, white, caustic paste. And then, ... they just left it. This putty is being matured. It's been sitting in this pit, covered from the air, for 6 months. Master Thomas, apparently, has a rule. No putty is to be used until it's at least 3 months old. Like a fine and extremely, extremely caustic cheese. Will yells down. And don't forget the hair. The hair? Next to the putty bit is a sack of ... goat hair. Coarse, brown, smelly. You are told to mix a shovelful of sand, a shovelful of the priceless aged putty, and a good handful of goat hair. The hair, you learn, is a binder. It's prehistoric rebar, helping to reduce shrinking and cracking as the mortar slowly cures. You haul a heavy wooden bucket of the sticky, hairy, white mud back up the scaffold. It's like trying to carry a bucket of wet, angry cement. Now, the real fun begins. You are given a small, flat trowel. Your job is to pack this new, wet, sticky mortar back into the joints you just spent an hour cleaning. It's like trying to frost a cake in the rain while wearing mittens. You scoop, you pack, you push. It's cold. The lime putty stings, finding every tiny cut and scratch on your knuckles, a sensation you'd describe as aggressive manicure. This, of course, is a whole scholarly debate. Historians and building conservationists still argue whether the hot mix method was more common, mixing the quicklime, sand, and water all at once, creating a hot, chemically active mortar that set fast. Or if this putty method, using carefully aged, slaked lime, was the standard for high-status jobs like this. Master Thomas, being the obsessive he is clearly a putty man. You spend the next 3 hours packing hairy mud into a wall, while the rain washes it out almost as fast as you can put it in. Will is tamping it in with a specialized jointing tool, making it neat. He's a true artist. You are just a mud mover. You finish your small 10-foot patch. It looks ... fine. Wet, but fine. Good, Will grunts. It'll set, eventually. You look up. At the keep, at the curtain walls, at the towers. It stretches for miles. It's all just ... this. Thousands upon thousands of tons of stone, all floating on a thin, sacrificial, hairy, breathing bed of lime. You realize, you say, more to yourself than to Will, that this job is never finished. Will laughs, a dry, barking sound. Of course it ain't. By the time we get to the north gate, the south tower, which we did 5 years ago, is ready to be raked out again. It's a permanent, never-ending, vital cycle. This is the quiet repair. This is the whole secret. Right, Will says, packing his tools. Noon. Go get some bread, and after. Master Thomas says the roofer needs a hand. He's got a slipped slate on the Great Hall. You are, once again, saved from the gong farmer. And God help you, you are now being sent to the roof. Your lunch was a hunk of dark, heavy, gritty bread and a swig of ale so weak it was basically just brown, pessimistic water. But it was calories. And now, your brief, damp respite is over. Master Thomas's order echoes in your head. The roofer needs a hand. You find him exactly where you'd expect, on the roof. Not just any roof. The roof of the Great Hall. This is a vast, sloping, gray monster of a thing, a man-made mountain of slate and oak. It's the castle's single largest, most expensive, and most vulnerable feature. A stone wall can take a beating, but a roof is just a fancy, heavy, wooden umbrella. This is the mainstream historical fact of the entire castle. The keep is the armor, but the roof is the soft, expensive, easily punctured underbelly. Keeping this one surface waterproof is the single most important and costly job in the entire fortress. Getting to him is the first test. You climb the keep's main spiral stair, out onto the wall walk, but the hall's roof is lower than the parapet. You have to walk to a small, narrow postern door, go down a set of even smaller, darker, cobweb-filled stairs, and emerge onto a narrow, lead-lined gutter that runs the length of the hall. And there he is. He's about halfway up the 60-degree slope, kneeling on a roof ladder, a simple wooden ladder with a hook on the top end that catches on the ridgeline of the roof. He's a man named Robin. He's thin, wiry, and moves with a slow, deliberate, cat-like grace. He's the only man here who doesn't seem bothered by the height or the rain. You, on the other hand, are instantly, profoundly bothered. The gutter is slick with rain and a fine greenish algae. You are 80 feet in the air. The courtyard below looks impossibly small. Your stomach, full of that sad, heavy bread, does a slow, queasy flip. This is probably a bad time to discover you have vertigo. Don't just stand there gawping, apprentice, Robin says, his voice quiet, not at all like Thomas's gravelly bark. Bring me the slates. And the tingles. He points to a small stack of new, perfectly cut slates, a dark, purplish gray, and a small coil of what looks like thin lead ribbon. Your job, you discover, is to be the fetcher. You have to load 2 of these slates, which are surprisingly, shockingly heavy, like carrying a piece of a literal mountain, and ferry them, one-handed, across the slick gutter and up a second ladder to where he's working. It is the most terrifying 10-step journey of your life. Your feet slip. The slate is sharp, trying to slice your numb fingers. The wind, which was just a breeze in the courtyard, is an angry, invisible giant up here, trying to peel you from the building. You are one clumsy, rain-slicked mistake away from being a brief, screaming, reddish-brown stain on the Bailey cobbles. You silently reconsider your career choice. The gong farmer. At least he works on the ground. You make it, panting, and hand him the slates. Right, he says. He points to a gap where a slate is missing. Slipped. This is the quiet, constant failure. The slates are hung on wooden laths, the horizontal strips of wood that make up the roof skeleton by 2. Peggies. These are simple, hand-whittled pegs of oak, driven through 2 holes at the top of the slate. Oak, Robin mutters, as if it's a curse word. It rots, don't it? The peg rots. The rain, the damp ... just eats them. The peg fails, and the slate, weighing a good 5 or 6 pounds, just ... slips. It slides down the roof with a clack, clack, clack and shatters in the gutter. Or if it's got momentum, flies off into the courtyard. A single slipped slate is a hole. It's a welcome mat for the rain. That one. Tiny gap will channel water directly onto the laths, rotting them. It will drip onto the massive 10-ton solid oak tie beam of the Great Hall's truss, rotting it. A slipped slate, left for a winter, can lead to a catastrophic entire roof collapsing failure. So, how do you fix it, you ask? You can't get to the pegs. The other slates are on top. You don't, he says. You cheat. And he shows you the quirky, brilliant tidbit of his trade. He takes one of the new slates and a small, pointed hammer. He doesn't drive a new peg. Instead, he takes a 6-inch strip of that lead ribbon, the tingle. He slides it under the gap and nails it to the lath. So now you have a little metal strip sticking out. He slides the new replacement slate up under the slates above it until it covers the hole. It's just sitting there, loose. Then, with his thumb, he just folds the bottom of the tingle up and over the butt end of the new slate. That's it. A single, tiny, flexible, waterproof, and non-rotting metal clip. It's a prehistoric paper clip. It's a quiet, brilliant, simple, and completely invisible hack. It holds the slate in place, and no one will ever know it's there. He's just patched the castle's armor. Now, he says, his good mood evaporating. The real problem. He shuffles, crab-like, over to where the massive sloping roof meets the sheer stone wall of the keep. This is a junction, and junctions are where water wins. The flashing, he says, pointing to the lid sheets. The fix here is far more complex. The flashing is a wide apron of lid that comes up from the roof, lying on top of the slates. But the counter-flashing is the problem. This is the piece that seals it to the wall. You see a long horizontal groove of raglet that has been cut into the stone of the keep wall about 8 inches above the roof. The top edge of the lid sheet is jammed into this groove, but it's come loose. Water gets in the raglet, Robin explains, runs behind the lead, and rots the wall plate. Useless. His job is to reseal it. This is a whole, noisy, delicate, and brutal operation. He takes a thin lead wedge. He takes a peening chisel. He forces the lead flashing deeper into the stone groove, and then he just hammers it. Tink, tink, tink. The sound is sharp, high, and rings against the stone. He's not just tapping. He's using the chisel to smash the soft lead, deforming it, forcing it to flow like a cold liquid, filling every microscopic pore and crack in the stone. This is the great scholarly debate on the topic. Historians and conservationists still argue whether these lead flashings were just peened in like this held by sheer brutal mechanical force, or if the raglet was also packed with a thin layer of that same lime mortar you were just using to create a final sealed waterproof joint. Or, as some texts suggest, if they hammered in lead wool, shredded lead, until it cold welded itself into a solid plug. Looking at Robin's grim, focused expression and the precise violent force he's using. He's a peening man. He's beating the metal into submission. He finishes. The seal is tight. He pours a little water from his flask onto it. It beads and runs off. He nods. One tiny, satisfied nod. A single 4-foot-long leak has been stopped. A leak that would have rotted the $1 million solid oak heart of the Great Hall. A quiet, perilous, and utterly essential victory. Right, he says, packing his tools. Get down and try not to fall. You're still damp. You'll make a bigger splash. You climb down from the roof ladder, your knees shaking so violently you can barely find the rungs. Your feet touch the solid, lead-lined gutter with a thump, and you have never, ever been so grateful to be, relatively, horizontal in your life. The 80-foot drop to the courtyard seems to recede, and you lean against the cold stone wall of the keep, just breathing. The rain is still misting, and you realize, completely and totally soaked to the bone. Robin, the roofer, is already coiling his ropes, his work here done. He gives you a quick, assessing nod, the you didn't die look of approval, and moves off, his soft-soled boots making no sound on the wet lead. You are alone, 80 feet up, in the rain. And you remember, with a sinking, cold dread, what your first job of the day was supposed to be. The one you've been successfully and accidentally dodging, the garderobe. But before you can even begin your descent to the world of sewage, a familiar gravelly voice barks from the wall walk above you. Apprentice, since you're already up, check the belfry tower, northeast gargoyle. It's weeping. It's Master Thomas. He's standing on the parapet 10 feet above you, pointing. He must have eyes in the back of his head. Weeping is not a sad, emotional term. It's a technical one. It means the gargoyle is blocked. And when a drain locks, the water, as always, finds another way. In this case, it's dribbling down the face of the tower, finding every crack, soaking the mortar, and generally undoing all the hard, sacrificial work of your new friends, the masons. You sigh. It's a quiet, defeated sound that the wind steals immediately. You trudge along the gutter, up another short, steep ladder, and onto the belfry tower roof. It's a small, flat, lead-covered space. And at the corner, just as Thomas said, is the problem. It's a gargoyle. A fantastic, ugly, screaming monster carved from a single block of limestone. It's part lion, part eagle, part demon, and its mouth is wide open in a permanent, silent roar. This is the mainstream historical fact about these creatures. They are not just decoration. Gargouille is the old French word for throat or gullet, and that is exactly what this is. It is a highly decorated, terrifyingly efficient downspout. Its entire job is to catch all the rainwater from this roof and project it in a single, powerful stream, as far away from the base of the wall as possible. It's an act of hydraulic self-defense, and this one, its throat is choked. You can see it from here. A dense, black, foul-looking plug of rotted leaves, moss, twigs, and a few feathers. Probably an old crow's nest. There is no special tool. There is only you and a long, broken piece of roofing lath. You lie down, on your stomach, on the cold, wet, 100-foot-high lead roof. You shuffle forward until your head and shoulders are over the edge, staring directly into the face of this stone monster. The courtyard is a dizzying, terrifying postage stamp below you. You take the stick. You ram it into the gargoyle's throat. It's packed tight. You grunt, pushing. It's like trying to unblock a drain with a wet noodle. You jam it harder. Pop. The sound is wet and deeply satisfying. The blockage gives, and a sudden, violent gush of black, stinking, icy cold water erupts from the gargoyle's mouth. It jets out a good 20 feet, a high-pressure hose of rotten bird slurry splashing onto the outer bailey below. You've just given a stone dragon a laxative. You shuffle back, your heart hammering from the proximity to the edge. But you did it. You stopped the weep. Now, no more delays. You climb down. All the way down. Down the tower stairs, down the spiral vise, back into the muddy, noisy, familiar courtyard. You go to the west tower, and you find the gong farmer. His name is Grum. He is a small, quiet man with very, very clean hands. He's sitting on an overturned bucket by a small shed, sharpening a shovel. This is the quirky and frankly vital tidbit about Grum. He is, paradoxically, one of the highest paid laborers in the castle. He earns a shilling a day, a near princely sum. But there are conditions. He is only allowed to perform his work between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. He is legally forbidden from moving his product through the streets at any other time. He's a high-paid, specialist, nocturnal pariah. You explain the problem. The blocked chute. He nods. He doesn't seem bothered. This is just another Tuesday for him. B.U.T., he's not going to do it. He hands you a 20-foot-long pole of cured ash. Blockage is high, he says, his voice a low whisper. You go up, I'll stay low. Dislodge it. I'll catch it. You did not want to hear that. You take the pole. You go into the tower. You find the garderobe. It's not a room. It's a closet. A narrow, stone-lined slit in the 5-foot-thick wall. There is no door, just a low, arched opening. And in the floor, a single, carved, keyhole-shaped opening. The smell. The smell is a physical object. It is an assault. It's a thick, sour, acidic, eye-watering wall of stench. You are breathing through your mouth, which is worse, because now you can taste it. You position the pole. You feed it down into the dark, stone-lined chute. You've been worried about the smell. Master Thomas is worried about the chemistry. This is the real structural danger. The mixture of rain, urine, and feces creates a powerful acidic slurry. That slurry is eating the alkaline lime mortar. Remember how Will said the mortar was sacrificial? It's sacrificing itself, all right. It's dissolving, being chemically eaten by the castle's own waste. This minor blockage is, in effect, a slow-motion internal acid-based siege. Historians and archaeologists still argue whether guardrobes were intentionally designed to dump into the outer moat as a form of biological warfare, making the water undrinkable and, frankly, deeply unpleasant for any attacking soldier to wade through. Or was it just a convenient place to dump it? A side effect of gravity. You, gagging, holding your breath, ram the pole down. It stops. Thud. The blockage. You put your shoulder into it. You push. You brace your feet on the cold, damp stone. You push again. It gives. You feel a deep, subterranean, profoundly disgusting thump and gurgle travel up the pole, followed by a sudden, catastrophic rush of ... movement. A faint shout echoes up from the base of the wall, 80 feet below. Right then, it's done. The chute is clear. The acid is no longer eating the wall. You pull the pole out, trying not to touch any of it. You are gagging. You have, in the single most disgusting way possible, helped save this castle. You are, officially, at the bottom of the social ladder, even if you are 80 feet up. You stumble out into the rain, desperate to find a water barrel, desperate to wash your hands, and your face, and maybe your entire soul. You find the water butt. It's a massive, mossy, iron-hooped wooden barrel, tucked under the eaves of the stable, overflowing with, mostly, clean rainwater. You plunge your hands, forearms, and entire face into the icy water. You scrub with a frantic, gagging desperation that has nothing to do with hygiene and everything to do with trying to erase the last hour from your memory. The water is so cold it makes your teeth ache, and it is, at this moment, the single greatest luxury on planet Earth. You're still gasping, water streaming from your hair, when a new shadow falls over you. Master Thomas said I could borrow thee. You look up. This is not a mason. This man is built like the barrels he's standing next to. He has a broad, straw-colored beard full of wood shavings, and a small, sharp axe tucked into his belt. This is Hugh, the master carpenter, and he's been waiting for you. It seems your reward for conquering the latrine chute is to be loaned out. You are the castle's lowest common denominator, the universal apprentice, the human extra pair of hands. We're checking the hall, he says, and turns. You follow, wiping your face on your already filthy sleeve. You walk through a set of massive, iron-studded oak doors, pulling back a thick, heavy, and extremely smelly wool curtain, and step inside the great hall. The change is immediate. You are out of the wind and the rain, but it is not comfortable. The great hall is a cavern. It's a space the size of a modern high school gymnasium, but it's dark, and it is cold. A single massive fire pit, a central hearth smolders in the middle of the stone-flagged floor. It's trying its best, but it's like trying to heat a cathedral with a single candle. The air is thick with smoke, which is supposed to be rising 80 feet to escape through a louver, a sort of decorative wooden vent in the absolute peak of the roof. Mostly, though, the smoke just doesn't. It hangs in the air, a permanent, greasy, eye-watering haze that has coated every single surface in a fine, black, sticky layer of soot. You'd complain, but as you'll soon learn, that greasy soot is actually a brilliant wood preservative. Silver linings. You're not here for a feast. You're not here to admire the faded, damp-stained tapestries. Hugh is looking up. You follow his gaze. The roof. This is the castle's other great structural heart. The stone keep is the armor, the skeleton. But this is the wooden heart, the complex, organic, and deeply vulnerable muscle that holds it all together. This is the mainstream historical fact of the building. You are looking at a tie-beam roof. It's a masterpiece. Massive, 40-foot long, single-piece oak beams, 2 feet thick, span the entire width of the hall, tying the walls together. These beams are the only thing preventing the colossal, multi-ton weight of the slate roof, the one Robin was just on, from pushing the 2 stone walls outward, like a man doing a split. If one of these beams fails, the entire building will, with very little ceremony, unzip itself and collapse into a pile of very expensive rubble. And Hugh ... Hugh thinks one of them is failing. The roofer, he grunts, said he found a bad flash joint. Right over ... here. He walks to the west wall, the one that gets all the weather. The one where Robin was peening that lead. He points up to the end of the massive tie beam, where it disappears into the cold, damp stone of the wall. This junction, where wood meets stone, is the single greatest point of failure. He hands you a tool. It looks like a long, thin, vicious-looking ice pick. It's a bradawl. Up you go, he says, pointing to a permanent, ladder-like set of wooden pegs driven into the wall. You climb, your heart thumping. This is almost as bad as the roof. You are 20 feet up, clinging to the wall, right underneath this beam that smells ... wrong. Stab it, Hugh calls up. Right where it meets the stone. Put your shoulder into it. You position the hole. You push. You are expecting to meet the iron-hard resistance of 600-year-old oak. Instead, the awl sinks in. It goes in, like you're pushing it into a cold, hard block of cheese. It sinks a good 3-4 inches with almost no resistance. Your blood runs cold. You pull it out. The metal tip is wet, and it brings with it ... fibers, not wood. A soft, punky, brownish, stringy mush. It smells like a damp, sad, forgotten mushroom. Rot! Hugh bellows, though he doesn't sound surprised. He sounds ... vindicated. The water from that leak, the one Robin just fixed, has been seeping in. It found the end grain of this priceless beam, and for years it has been wicking. The rot, a fungus, has been patiently, quietly eating the structural heart of the castle. This is a crisis. You scramble down. Hugh is already at his tool chest. He pulls out a wide, heavy-bladed, and terrifyingly sharp adze, a sort of sideways axe. Now, he says, we do surgery. He climbs up himself, and he begins to hack. Thwack, thwack, THWAC. The sound is wet, heavy, percussive. He is cutting away all the soft, brown, rotten wood back to a solid, light-colored, healthy core. He is a surgeon performing an emergency amputation on a 10-ton patient. While he does that, he gives you a new, even worse job. He points to the next beam over. Check for the beetle. This is the other great, quiet enemy of the wood. You climb up. You see ... holes. Tiny, perfectly round, pencil lead-sized holes. Dozens of them. And below them, on the stone ledge, is a fine, sandy-looking, pale dust. This is the quirky tidbit. This is the work of the Deathwatch beetle. Its larva woodworm tunnels through the oak for years, turning the strong, structural timber into a fragile, hollowed-out piece of Swiss cheese. It gets its name, Death watch, because in the dead, quiet, sleepless nights, like when someone was sitting a vigil over the dying, you could hear it. A tiny, faint, rhythmic T-I-K dot 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 I-K dot 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 T-I-K. It was the sound of the male beetle, banging its head against the wood of its tunnel in a mating call. To a superstitious medieval mind, it was the sound of a tiny, invisible clock counting down the last seconds of life. In reality, it was just insects eating your house. Historians and timber framers still argue whether these medieval carpenters preferred to replace these massive, failing beams an astronomically expensive and difficult process, or if they were masters of this kind of in situ repair. Could they, for example, cut out the entire rotten end and scarf in a new soundpiece, joining it so perfectly it was as strong as the original? Looking at Hugh, who is now cheerfully carving a 2-foot by 1-foot chunk out of the castle's main artery, the evidence points to repair. They were surgeons, not butchers. Your job? He hands you a small brush and a pot of foul-smelling, boiled linseed oil. You must brush all the dust, the frass, or beetle droppings away. Then, you paint the entire beam end with the oil, trying to get it to soak into the holes. This, hopefully, will kill the larvae and preserve the wood. You are now perched on a high, wobbly ladder, painting sticky, smelly oil onto a worm-eaten beam, while the castle's chief carpenter hacks away at its rotten heart right next to you. The quiet repair is sometimes pretty loud. You finish your sticky, oily, and deeply unsatisfying job of painting the Death Watch beetle holes. Your hands are now covered in a combination of linseed oil, wood dust, and a fine layer of greasy, black soot from the hall's smoky air. Hugh, the master carpenter, has finished his own brutal, hacking surgery on the main beam. The rotten, punky wood is gone, leaving a gaping, 2-foot-wide hollow in the priceless oak. It looks, to your untrained eye, worse, but Hugh just grunts, satisfied. He's found the solid heartwood. The patient will live. Right, he says, climbing down. That's a job for tomorrow. A tricky bit of scarfing. He seems excited by the prospect of the complex joinery. You, on the other hand, are just relieved to be on the solid, stone-flagged floor. You're not given a moment's peace. A boy, one of the kitchen runners, finds you. Master Thomas says you're to go to the forge. What needs you? Says the gate screaming. Screaming, you've learned, is never good. It's another word for failing. You leave the cold, smoky, cathedral-like gloom of the great hall and step back out into the rain-swept bailey. The forge is not inside the keep, or even tucked against a wall. It's a standalone, barn-like, stone and timber building, set well away from anything important. For a very good reason. It is a fire-breathing, spark-spewing, catastrophic risk. You can hear it before you see it. A clang dot dot clang. Clang of a heavy hammer on an anvil. A sound that rings with a sharp, metallic rhythm. And you can feel it. The whoosh. Foom of the massive bellows. A sound like a sleeping giant breathing. You push open the heavy, ill-fitting wooden door and are hit by a wall of heat. It's the first time you've been properly warm all day. It's a dry, scorching, sulfurous heat that feels, for a second, like heaven. The room is dark, save for the furious, white-hot, pulsing heart of the forge itself. A man, who you assume is Watt, is standing in the light. He is a mountain. He is, in fact, the exact opposite of every other craftsman you've met. Master Thomas is a cold, precise engineer. Robin the roofer is a wiry, quiet acrobat. Hugh the carpenter is a solid, thoughtful surgeon. Watt the blacksmith is a force of nature. He is stripped to the waist, his chest and arms a corded, soot-blackened map of muscle, glistening with sweat despite the cold day. He is holding a glowing, yellow-hot bar of iron in a pair of long tongs, and he is beating it into submission. Clang, 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 Sparks fly with every hit, a shower of tiny, burning stars that die in the black, dusty dirt of floor. This is the mainstream historical fact of the castle's economy. The Faber, the blacksmith, is the most vital, high-status, and frankly, terrifying craftsman of the lot. He's not just a farrier putting shoes on the Lord's warhorse. He is the master of the castle's iron. He makes everything. The nails for the roof laths, the tingles for Robin, the chisels for Thomas, the adze for Hugh. He makes hinges, locks, keys, gate latches, portcullis fittings, arrowheads, and when needed, repairs the chainmail of the men-at-arms. He is the ironmonger, the toolmaker, the armorer, and the engineer, all rolled into one sweaty, grumpy, and extremely muscular package. He finishes his bar, plunging it into a steaming, hissing slack tub, and finally looks at you. The apprentice, he barks, not as a question. Good, you're oily. I like that. He points to a large wooden bucket in the corner. Gates screaming. You look in the bucket. It is filled with a pale, lumpy, yellowish-white grease. It smells ... awful. It's a thick, heavy, rancid animal smell. This is the quirky and smelly tidbit of medieval mechanics. This isn't high-grade lithium grease. This is tallow, rendered mutton or beef fat. It's a byproduct of the kitchens, and it is your main all-purpose lubricant. It goes rancid. It smells like a wet dog that died in a candle factory. And in the cold, it gets hard as a rock. It's waterproof, and it's better than rust. The windlass room, Watt says, pointing up. Go. You have to go to the gatehouse. This is the massive, fortified building you walked through to get into the castle. You climb a narrow stair to the room above the arched entryway. This ... this is a machine. The entire room is filled with a giant, wooden, drum-like axle called a windlass and a complex, terrifying mesh of wooden gears and massive, oily, black chains. This is the engine that lifts the portcullis, the massive iron-toothed gate, and the heavy oak drawbridge. And it's screaming. You can hear it. A high-pitched metallic shriek as the guard on duty turns a smaller wheel, testing it. That sound is not an annoyance. That sound is friction. Friction is iron grinding on iron. Friction means wear. Wear means failure. And a portcullis that fails, one that won't drop, or worse, one that won't lift, is how you lose a castle. Your job is simple and disgusting. You take a thick, wooden paddle, scoop up a huge glob of the cold, lumpy, stinking tallow, and you slather it. You slather it onto the wooden axle. You slather it onto the cogs of the gears. You force it, with your bare, already oily hands, into the links of the massive lifting chains. It's like trying to butter a dragon's chainmail in the dark. You climb down a ladder into the portcullis chase itself, the narrow stone slot the gate slides in. You grease the runners. This brings up the great scholarly debate. Historians and engineers still argue whether a machine as complex was the product of the local castle blacksmith, or if they were built by a specialized, itinerant master of engines. Did Watt build this? Or is he just the high-status grease monkey who keeps it running? Looking at the sheer, brute force simplicity of the forge, and the almost clock-like complexity of this mechanism, it's hard to imagine they came from the same mind. You finish. You are now, officially, the most disgusting-smelling person in the 14th century, a walking potpourri of sour latrine, wet wool, linseed oil, and rancid mutton fat. You go back to the bailey. Watt is at the drawbridge, frowning. Chains, he grunts. The two massive iron chains that lift the drawbridge are stiff. The rain, the mortal enemy, has gotten into the links. They are reddish-brown. They are rusting. Rust is not a stain. It is the iron unmaking itself. It is the metal dissolving, turning back into the brittle, useless orange dust it came from. Watt hands you a stiff, wire-bristled brush and the bucket of doom. Your job: brush every speck of the active, flaky, orange rust off every single fist-sized link. And then, with your hands, paint every single link, top and bottom, inside and out, with the rancid tallow forcing it into the joints. It takes an hour. It is cold. It is miserable. It is sticky. But when you're done, the chains are black, slick, and waterproof. Right, Watt says. Now, test it. He and 2 guards go to the windlass. You hear the clack, clack, clack of the ratchet. The chains go taut, and with a low, deep, satisfying groan of wood, the massive drawbridge rises. And the portcull swish thud. It drops. A 2-ton grid of iron and oak, falling 15 feet in 1 second and embedding itself in the dirt. No shriek, no scream, just a smooth, terrifying, quiet sound of a well-oiled machine of death. Watt nods. A single sharp smith's nod of approval. Another quiet repair. Well, a greasy, stinking, and utterly vital one. You are, without question, the most disgusting human being in the entire castle. You are a walking, multi-sensory assault. You are covered in soot, damp, grease, motor oil's gross great-grandfather, and aromas you'd rather not think about. You've been a mason, a roofer, a plumber, and a mechanic, all in one terrible, damp day. Watt the blacksmith gives you a final, approving, you think, grunt and turns back to his forge, the great whoosh of the bellows and the clang of the hammer resuming, signaling your dismissal. You stand in the bailey, rainwater mixing with the mutton grease on your hands, creating a truly horrifying, pale slurry. You have no idea what's next. You are, for a single blessed moment, without a master. It doesn't last. Apprentice. The voice is quiet, gravelly, and full of that familiar, chronic disappointment. It's Master Thomas. You turn. He's standing not 10 feet away, but he's not looking up at his walls. He's not scanning the parapets or the chimneys. He's looking down. He's staring at the ground at the base of the great keep, his face a mask of sour concentration. With me, he says, and turns. He doesn't wait. You follow, your heart sinking. This feels different. His usual inspections are ... routine. This feels ... urgent. He doesn't lead you up a spiral stair. He leads you to a low, iron-banded oak door at the very base of the keep. He pulls a massive, heavy, iron key from his belt, works the lock, and heaves the door open. A smell rolls out. It's not the sharp tang of the latrine or the animal stink of the bailey. It's a cold, heavy, profound smell of damp earth, mildew, stone ... and apples. A faint, fruity, vinegary, fermenting smell. You are descending into the undercroft, the cellars. This is the mainstream historical fact of the castle as layout. The ground floor of a keep was almost never for living. It was a semi-subterranean, vaulted, stone-lined warehouse. It was the buttery, the larder, the cellar. It was where the entire castle's food, and more importantly, its drink, was stored. It is pitch black. Thomas lights a tallow candle, and the single sputtering, greasy flame pushes back a tiny, pathetic circle of darkness. You are in a cavern of shadows. You can see the curved, stone-vaulted ceiling, and stacked all around you, massive, house-sized tons and barrels of ale and wine. It is freezing, but it's a still, tomb-like, underground cold. Thomas isn't checking the wine. He's not inspecting the barrels of salted fish. He walks to the far corner, to the oldest part of the keep, where the rough, massive stones of the foundation are exposed. He holds the candle up. There, he whispers. You look. You see ... rock. Look, look. He's impatient. You lean in. Your face inches from the cold, weeping stone. And you see it. It's not a gap. It's not a crack. It's a line. A faint, diagonal, impossibly thin fissure that runs from the floor up through one massive rough-hewn foundation block, and into the mortar joint of the one above it. It is the most subtle, most terrifying thing you have ever seen. It is the unmistakable signature trace of subsidence. The castle is sinking. The sheer, unthinkable million-ton weight of the stone above you is pressing down, down, down. And the earth below you, the ground you're standing on, is ... moving. Thomas puts his hand on the wall. She's cold, and she's wet. The crack is weeping. A tiny, almost invisible film of moisture is on the stone. Water, the enemy. It's not coming from the sky this time. It's coming from below. The moat, the groundwater, the rain-soaked earth. It's seeping in, turning the hard-packed clay and gravel under the foundation into a soft, unstable, structural mud. A castle is not just sinking. It is tilting. Just a millimeter. Just a fraction of an inch. But it's enough. This is the great scholarly debate. Historians and engineers still argue whether the massive splayed batter or plinth you see on the outside of the keep that wide, sloping skirt-like base was a purely defensive feature designed to make it hard for attackers to get close and to deflect projectiles, or if it was an intuitive, brilliant engineering solution, a desperate attempt to spread the castle's colossal load over a wider area, like a giant snowshoe, to stop this exact problem. Thomas, it seems, is dealing with a failure despite the batter. He holds his candle to another, wider crack, just a foot away. You see something ... new. This is the quirky and brilliant tidbit of his trade. Bridging the crack is a small, hard, white wafer of plaster. It looks like a cookie stuck to the wall. Scratched into it is a date, Anno 1342. This is a telltale, and the telltale is cracked in half. The two sides of the crack have moved. They have separated. This is not an old, stable, historic problem. This is a live problem. The foundation is actively settling right now as you stand there. What, in God's name, can you do? You can't. Jack up the castle. You can't pour a new, modern, concrete foundation. You don't. You manage. The kitchen drain, Thomas mutters, his mind already working. It runs past this wall. 10 feet out, it's leaking. Has to be. It's saturating the ground. It's washing the footing away. He has found the source. It's not the moat. It's the castle itself. The drain from the kitchen, full of grease and food scraps, has failed, and it's pumping water into the one spot you can't have it. He turns to you. His face, in the single guttering candlelight, is a mask of shadows and grim determination. You, he says, you're already filthy. Get a shovel. Find the kitchen drain. I want it dug up from the scullery to the moat, and I want every single stone of it reset in a bed of puddled clay. Now, he's not asking you to fix the crack. He's asking you to fix the cause of the crack. You are once again being sent to play in the mud and the filth. But this time, you're not just clearing a blockage. You're not just greasing a chain. This time, you're saving the entire keep from a slow, quiet, catastrophic collapse. You nod and scramble out of the cold, dark, terrifying tomb, back into the familiar, wet, and suddenly very comforting rain of the Bailey. You spend the next 6 hours in a trench. It's not a glorious, defensive trench. It's a 3-foot-deep, 20-yard-long ditch of pure, cold, stinking, kitchen waste-saturated mud. You are not digging. You are excavating. You are, with a shovel, and more often than not, your bare, mutton-greased hands, pulling up heavy, slimy, broken sections of the terracotta drainpipe. It is, without question, the single worst job of your entire life. It makes the latrine chute feel like a high-status, clean, and respectable profession. You find the leak. A whole section of the pipe has been crushed, probably by a heavy provision wagon. The ground around it is a soupy, gray, greasy morass. You reset the pipes. You pack them, as Master Thomas ordered, in a thick, sticky, waterproof bed of puddled clay, which you have to mix yourself by stomping in a pit like a furious, filthy, medieval grape crusher. By the time you are done, the sun is a low, watery, afternoon smear. You are not a human being. You are a walking mud golem, held together by rancid tallow and pure spite. You have, however, saved the keep from collapsing. A quiet, filthy, and utterly unthanked for victory. You are summoned, not by a bark, but by a polite, terrified-sounding page boy who keeps a very, very respectful distance from you. The master glazier, the boy says, holding his nose. He requests your presence. In the chapel. This is a joke. It has to be. The chapel? You are a biohazard. You look down at your hands, which are just brown. You are a creature of the trench. But the request is real. You walk, leaving a trail of muddy, greasy footprints to the small private chapel tucked beside the great hall. This is the Lord and Lady's private sanctuary. You push open the carved oak door and step inside. The world changes. It is silent. The wind, the rain, the shouting, the clang of the forge. It's all gone. It is perfectly, unnaturally still. It is clean. The stone-flagged floor is swept. The air doesn't smell of latrines or mud or rot. It smells of beeswax, old incense, and a faint, dry dustiness. And it is filled with light. Not the cold, gray, indifferent light of the Bailey. This is a jeweled, magical, colored light. It spills across the floor in pools of ruby red, sapphire blue, and emerald green. You are standing in front of a new, massive, stained glass window. And this, right here, is the mainstream historical fact of the 14th century. You are looking at the medieval equivalent of a $20 million supercar. This is not a window. A window is a hole in the wall, covered by a wooden shutter, or, if you're fancy, a fenestrel, a piece of canvas or linen, soaked in resin or tallow to make it translucent. This is a statement. This is a flex. This is the Lord telling the entire world, I am so colossally, offensively wealthy that I can afford to have a hole in my wall filled with jewels. Glass is a high-tech, quasi-magical, astronomically expensive luxury good. And stained glass, that's just showing off. A man is standing on a small, neat scaffold, his back to you. He is not a mason or a smith. He is clean. He wears a fine, wool-dyed tunic. He's thin, fussy, and his hands are spotless. This is the master glazier, a high-status, artist alchemist who charges by the day and whose daily rate could probably feed your entire family for a month. He turns. He looks at you. His face goes through a truly spectacular, silent, 5-act play of horror, disgust, and profound existential despair. You, the mud and grease tallow golem, are standing on his clean floor, tripping on his priceless Savonary rug. Just don't single quotes T ... touch. Anything, he whispers, his voice trembling. And for God's sake, stand there. The problem? The window is rattling. A gust of wind hits the chapel, and the whole glorious jeweled wall shivers. A high, thin, whistling sound cuts through the silence. The wind bar, the glazier hisses. It's come loose, and a cane has cracked. This is the quirky and brilliant tidbit of the craft. We see stained glass, and we see glass. A glazier sees lead. The entire, massive, 20-foot-tall window is not one piece. It's an assembly. It's a mosaic of hundreds of small, colored glass pieces, and they're all held together by a flexible, H-shaped lead came. It's the lead that is the real technology. It's soft, it's flexible, it's waterproof, and it's heavy. The window is, in effect, a massive, floppy, incredibly heavy curtain made of metal and glass. It wants to buckle and bow under its own weight. And one of those ties has failed. I need you, the glazier says, pointing to his workbench, to mix the cement. This is your job. You are not allowed to touch the glass. You are not allowed to touch the lead. You are to be his cement mixer. You go to the bench. He points to 3 small, neat piles. One is powdered slaked lime, Master Thomas's, no doubt. One is a pile of fine, white, powdered chalk. The third is a small bag of smith's dust, a fine, black iron oxide powder from Watt's Forge. He adds a small jug of your old friend linseed oil. Your job is to mix this with your filthy, greasy, muddy hands into a stiff, black, sticky putty. It smells odd oily. This is the great scholarly debate. Historians and art conservators still argue about the precise, proprietary recipes for this glazier's cement. Was it just lime and chalk? Did the linseed oil make it waterproof? Was the blacksmith's dust just for color to make the putty match the lead? Or did the iron oxide act as a dryer, helping the oil-based putty cure faster? This is a trade secret, and this glazier's recipe is his livelihood. He takes a lump of your black, sticky putty. He gets on his scaffold. He shows you the loose pane. He uses a thin, flexible stopping knife. He forces the putty with quick, precise, surgical movements into the H-shaped channel of the lead came on both sides of the glass. This is cementing. It's not glue. It does 2 vital, quiet things. It makes the entire floppy panel rigid, and it makes it waterproof. The rattle is already less. Next, the cracked came. A joint in the lead itself has split. He directs you to a small, portable charcoal brazier. You have to work the tiny, handheld bellows, bringing the coals to a bright, white heat. He rests a heavy, copper-tipped soldering iron in the coals. He cleans the lead crack. He takes a stick of lead tin solder. He applies a dab of tallow. Yes, tallow again, the universal substance, as flux. He takes the hot iron, and with a hiss and a puff of acrid, greasy smoke, he solders the lead. A perfect, tiny, silver, waterproof seal. Finally, he takes a new, thin, copper wire, and with the deftness of a jeweler, reties the window panel to the iron wind bar. He steps back. The wind hits the chapel. Silence. No whistle. No rattle. No shiver. The window is solid, silent, and waterproof. The glazier lets out a breath he seems to have been holding all day. He looks at you. Go, he whispers. Please, just go. You back out of the chapel, a creature of mud, leaving the world of clean, silent, jeweled light. You have, in your own, deeply disgusting way, just helped save the castle's most expensive and fragile work of art. You are a walking offense, a pariah. You are so profoundly, comprehensively filthy that small children are visibly frightened of you. And even the castle's mangy dogs, normally desperate for any scrap, give you a wide, respectful berth. You are a masterpiece of layered grime, a living history of the castle's failings. You stand in the bailey, the rain hopelessly trying to wash you, and you wonder if you'll just be ordered to sleep in the ditch you just dug. You. The voice is sharp, reedy, and full of panic. It's not a craftsman. It's a high-status servant, a yeoman of the chamber, and he is looking at you with the same horror the glazier did, but mixed with a new, frantic urgency. Her ladyship is displeased. The wall. It's staining. Come, and for the love of God, do not brush against anything. You are being escorted inside, not just into the great hall, but up a tight, private, spiral stair into the solar. This is the private, upstairs, living room for the Lord and Lady. It's the inner sanctum, and it is warm. A real, proper fireplace, a high-tech, newfangled invention, A hole in the wall with a chimney, not just a pit in the floor, is blazing away. There are real glazed glass windows, which you now know are rattling. There are carpets on the floor. There are tapestries on the wall. It is the height of 14th century luxury. And the ladies' chamber woman is pointing, her face a mask of disgust, at a patch of wall. It's an ugly, brownish-yellow, map-like stain, about 3 feet wide, creeping down from the ceiling. It's ruined the paint, she wails. The paint is a beautiful, intricate, stencil-painted pattern of red and gold flowers on a clean, white wall. And the stain is making a mockery of it. The master plasterer is already there. He's a thin, fussy man named Pierce, and he looks ... mortified. This is his wall. His art. It's the roof, my lady, he's explaining, wringing his clean hands. A slipped slate, or a bad flashing. Master Robin was just up there ... double quotes. His problem right now is not the leak. That's Thomas's problem. His problem is the cosmetics. Apprentice, he says, spotting you and visibly recoiling. Fetch the whitewash and a new batch of plaster. And try not to drip. This is the mainstream historical fact of the castle's interior. The walls are not bare, gray stone. That's a romantic Hollywood invention. A high-status room like this would be plastered and painted like a palace. The plaster is just a high-grade version of the mortar you used this morning. It's fine, sieved, white lime putty. Master Thomas's aged stock, no doubt, mixed with clean, fine sand and a lot of horsehair. It's applied in 2 or 3 coats over a web of wattle and daub, a panel of woven sticks, daubed with clay and straw, that's nailed into the stone wall to create a flat interior surface. The whitewash is even simpler. It's just lime putty, thinned with water, and sometimes a little milk or casein to make it bind. It is, in effect, a bright, white, primitive paint. You are sent to fetch the supplies. You, the mud golem, are now in charge of interior decoration. When you return, Piers is tapping the wall, just like Master Thomas. Tap, 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 but he's not listening for a thud. He's listening for a rustle. This is the quirky and disgusting tidbit of his job. A leak doesn't just bring water, it brings life. The water rots the wooden wattle laths. That rot attracts insects. The insects attract mice. The mice attract rats. The whole damp, dark, hollow space between the cold stone wall and the warm inner plaster is a Pliocene savanna of its own. It's a high-rise luxury apartment building for vermin. He hears a faint, dry, skittering sound. Ah, he says, his face grim. He takes a small, sharp chisel, and with a quick, violent pop, he breaks a hole in his own beautiful plaster. A small, dry, dusty cascade of ... droppings. And chewed-up straw pours out. A rat's nest. He sighs. Right, you, clear this. Then I'll patch it. You get to dig a rat's nest out of a wall with your bare, mutton-greased hands. You are truly, madly, deeply in hell. You clear it. Piers, with the skill of a surgeon, patches the hole with the new hairy plaster, smoothing it perfectly flat. Now the stain. This, Piers says, pointing to the ugly yellow-brown map, is the point. You just stare at him. It's supposed to do this, he says, exasperated. The whitewash. It's not just pretty. It's a telltale. Remember that cracked plaster thing in the cellar? This is the same idea, but for water, he explains. A bare, gray stone wall? It can be soaking wet, and you'd barely notice. It just looks a little ... dark, but a brilliant, clean, white wall? The second a single drop of water, stained yellow by the tannins in the oak roof beams, touches it ... it leaves a stain. This, he says, pointing to the stain, is my check engine light. This is how I tell Master Thomas that his roofer has failed. This is a report This, of course, is a whole scholarly debate. Historians and art conservators still argue whether the complex, painted, diaper work and floral patterns you see were just decoration, or if they were a more advanced form of this. Was a repeating, complex pattern a way to hide the inevitable, small, ugly stains and cracks? Or conversely, did the disruption of that perfect geometric pattern make a new, serious leak even more obvious to a trained eye? Piers scrapes away the stained, flaking whitewash. He hands you a brush. "Cover it," he orders. You dip the brush into the bucket of thin, watery, bright white lime. You paint. The whitewash is ... caustic. The lime, which is not fully dead, stings. It finds every single tiny cut on your hands. The ones from the slate, the ones from the drain pipe, the ones from the rat's nest, and it sets them on a cold, chemical fire. It is agonizing. But the stain ... vanishes. It's covered by a layer of brilliant, wet white. The chamberwoman nods, satisfied. The problem is gone, but you and Piers know the truth. You've just covered the symptom. Piers presses his hand to your repair. He pulls it away. His palm is damp. "It's still wet," he whispers, furious. "The leak's still active. Thomas. Thomas is going to have to send Robin up. Again. The whitewash, you realize, is not just a telltale. It's a job security system for the entire maintenance crew. It's the beginning of a chain of repair that leads right back to the roof. You have, once again, failed upwards and are dismissed from the warm, bright, carpeted room, back into the world of mud and rain. You have been exiled. You stand, tripping, in the center of the bailey. You have been ejected from the solar, the private, warm, clean world of the nobility, and you are back in the cold, wet, public world of mud and shouting. You are, you realize, so comprehensively filthy that you are no longer just dirty. You are a walking, layered, archaeological dig in progress. You are a primary source document of the castle's failings, written in mud, grease, lime, soot, and other fouler things. You are now so dirty that the dirt itself is probably forming its own smaller, parasitic ecosystems. "Oi, Mudman, get over here." The shout is new. It's not Thomas's bark, Hugh's grunt, or Watt's clang. It's a high, reedy, anxious sound. It's coming from the stables. You trudge over. The stables are a long, low, timber and stone building tucked against the outer curtain wall. It's an outbuilding, and it has a very different kind of roof. It's not the hard, gray, permanent-looking slate of the Great Hall. It's a thick, shaggy, brown and gold mat of ... straw. You step inside. The smell. It's not the cold, dead smell of the cellar, or the eye-watering ammonia of the latrine. It's warm. It's a thick, steamy, living smell of animal musk, hay, warm bodies, and over it all, a sharp, pungent tang of ... damp, not damp stone. Damp vegetable. It's the smell of rot, but an organic, sweet, mulchy kind of rot. The building is dark, but your eyes adjust. And you see them. The horses. These are not the shaggy, sad-looking ponies the apprentices ride. These are destriers. They are war horses. They are, in modern terms, a squadron of F-22s. They are 7 feet tall at the shoulder, massively muscled, and radiating a nervous, terrifying, high-strung energy. Their shoes are worth more than your entire wardrobe. This is the Lord's entire military and financial portfolio, standing here, breathing steam in the cold air. The stable master, the source of the reedy shout, is pointing up. Drip, drip, single, steady, infuriatingly persistent drip of cold, brown water is falling from the ceiling, and it is landing directly on the back of the Lord's prized, jet-black, and famously psychotic warhorse, Beelzebub. The horse is not happy. It's shifting, its skin twitching, its massive head tossing. The stable master is, if possible, less happy. "It's the roof," he wails. "It's been weeping for a week. Now it's a piss. Thatcher's up there, but he's old. He needs a fetcher. Go." This is a mainstream historical fact. The outbuildings are just as vital as the keep. A leaky stable is not an annoyance. It's a military crisis. A warhorse standing in a constant, cold, damp draft or getting soaked by a leak will get sick. It will get grease heel or mud fever. It will get a lung infection. A sick warhorse is a 200-pound sterling irreplaceable weapon system, gone. This leak is, in its own quiet way, as dangerous as a spy opening the postern gate. You go outside and find the ladder. You climb up onto the shaggy, springy, surprisingly steep roof. A man is kneeling there, a man so old he looks like he's made of dried twigs. This is the thatcher. He's not a high-status artist like the glazier. He's more of a high-status, ... haystack barber ... He's pulling out handfuls of the old thatch. It's black, slimy, and rotten, like a wet, dead animal. "Right," he rasps, not even looking at you. "Down you go. Bring me the yelms." He points to a neat, tight, pre-soaked bundle of rye straw, tied with a bit of tarred cord. This is a yelm. Your job for the next 2 hours is to be a human conveyor belt. You climb down. You grab a heavy, awkward, soaking wet bundle of straw. You climb up one-handed, trying not to slip on the other patches of slimy, rotten thatch. You hand it to him, and you get to watch. This is a totally different technology from Robin's slates. Slate is a hard defense. It's armor. It's meant to block water. Thatch is a soft defense. It's designed to be wet. It works by shedding. The water hits the top layer, trickles down the tightly packed vertical stalks, and flies off the eaves, never, in theory, soaking through to the dry layers below. But it rots. It is, after all, just a vegetable. The old man is a master. He lays the new, fresh, golden yelm over the whole, tamping it, pushing it, dressing it, until it integrates with the old roof. And then he does the quirky and brilliant tidbit. He pulls out a needle, a 6-foot-long, flat, wooden needle with a giant carved eye. It's threaded with a thick, tarred, hempen cord. He shoves it with a 2-handed grunt through the entire 2-foot-thick roof. Down you go, he wheezes. Find the needle. Push it back. You have to go back into the stable, under the hole. You see the massive wooden point of the needle poked through the rafters. You have to push it back up. He is, quite literally, sewing the patch of straw to the wooden laths of the roof skeleton. This is stitching. He does this a dozen times. Then he takes a tool a legget, which looks like a heavy, grooved wooden paddle, and he beats the patch. Thwack, thwack. He's not just flattening it. He's dressing it, compacting the stalks, making it so dense and so perfectly aligned that the water has no choice but to flow right off. This is the great scholarly debate. Historians and archaeologists still argue whether the choice of roofing material slate, wood shingle, or thatch was purely about status. Slate is rich and fireproofing. Thatch is a torch. Or if it was a deeply practical, functional choice. Thatch is a spectacular insulator. Far, far better than cold, heavy stone slate. That stable, on a bitter winter night, will be warm, using only the body heat of the horses. That is vital for their health, but it is a fire risk. An arrow with a burning rag could set this entire vital building ablaze in 30 seconds. So it's a trade-off. It's a calculated, practical, engineering choice. You put the cheap, insulating, flammable roof on the outbuilding, away from the keep and the Great Hall. You accept the constant, quiet, vegetable rot repair because the function-warm horses is worth it. The old man finishes. He has, with a needle and some straw, patched the hole. The drip Drip, drip, inside ... stops. Beelzebub, the hell horse, lets out a low, satisfied snort. The stable master is happy. The old thatcher is happy. You are now covered in grease, mud, soot, lime, and a new, final, itchy, sneezing layer of rotten straw and bird droppings. You have, once again, saved the castle, and you have never, ever been in more desperate need of a bath. You have decided no longer a person. You are a mobile compost heap. You are a walking, sentient, profoundly unhappy bog. The rain has plastered the rotten straw from the thatching to your grease and mud-caked tunic, and you have a suspicion that a small but hardy moss is beginning to colonize your left shoulder. The sun is a low, bloody smear in the west. The day is almost over. You have fought water, gravity, rot, and vermin. You have been soaked, frozen, covered in filth, and patronized by an artist. You are just ... done. You are contemplating just lying down in the ditch you dug and letting the 14th century reclaim you. And that is when the world ends. It is not a sound you hear. It is a sound you are. It is a crump who scares mash. It is a noise that is also a physical blow. The ground leaps under your feet. The air punches you in the chest, knocking the breath from your lungs. A flock of crows you didn't even know was there erupts from the keep, screaming. And then the sound of it hits the belfry tower. It is not a tink, it is a crack. A deep, sickening, grinding, shattering sound, like a giant dropping a mountain on a quarry. It's a trebuchet. The siege, which you had almost forgotten about. A distant, theoretical other baron who was camped a mile away has just become very, very real. You are on the ground, your ears ringing, tasting stone dust, and somehow iron. To the tower! To the tower! Master Thomas is already moving. He is not grumpy. He is not disappointed. He is a man possessed, a general whose fortress has just been shot. He is roaring. Lime, sand, buckets, move! This is it. This is the other kind of repair. All day you have been fighting the quiet war, the slow, patient, insidious, creeping, vegetable rot of entropy. This is the loud war. This is physics, applied with malice. You run. The entire castle, which was settling into a damp evening routine, has exploded. Men-at-arms are on the walls. Horns are blowing. But you are not a soldier. You are maintenance. And your job just became triage. You follow Thomas up the spiral stairs of the keep, shoving past terrified servants and out onto the wall walk. The damage is ... breathtaking. The belfry tower, the one where you cleaned the weeping gargoyle, has been hit. A single 300-pound rough-hewn stone, launched from a mile away, has struck the parapet. The mainstream historical fact of this warfare is that it's just applied masonry. It's one set of masons. There's trying to deconstruct what your set of masons, yours, constructed. That trebuchet was a force multiplier. It didn't just punch neat holes. It pulverized. The beautiful crenellation you saw Thomas kick this morning? It's not wobbly. It is gone. It has been vaporized into a cloud of gravel. The wall itself, the outer skin of beautiful, smooth, ashlar stone, has a 5-foot-wide crater in it. It's shattered. And the core, you see it. The inner rubble core, the garbage mix of gravel, flint, and old mortar that makes up the wall's guts, is pouring out of the hole, like sand from a broken hourglass. The wall is bleeding its own structural integrity out onto the ground, 100 feet below. The wall has not failed, but it has been wounded. It's a compound fracture, and another stone is already in the air. You can hear it. A high, thin, terrifying whistle. Hoo-oosh crump. This one hits the roof of the Great Hall. The sound is a catastrophic SKR crack thud, a sound of 1,000 of Robin's slates shattering at once. This is the great scholarly debate. Historians and military engineers still argue whether the primary, strategic purpose of a trebuchet was to breach the walls, a long, difficult, and often impossible task, or if it was, in fact, an anti-personnel, terror and logistics weapon. Was it designed to smash the men on the walls? To destroy the roofs, letting the rain, the real enemy, in? To smash the stables, killing the priceless war horses? To demoralize, to terrorize, to make life so miserable, loud, and dangerous that the inhabitants would just give up? Looking at the new, gaping, rain-inviting skylight in the Great Hall and the pulverized belfry, the answer seems to be all of it. Apprentice, bucket. Thomas is not admiring the debate. He is in the breach. You are not a mason. You are a hauler. You are the bottom of a human chain. You run back, down the stairs, to the bailey. A repair station is already being set up. And this is the quirky, brilliant, and terrifying tidbit of the loud repair. You are not fetching Master Thomas's prized 6-month-aged putty. There is no time for that. You are grabbing a shovel. You are shoveling quicklime, the raw, unslaked, dangerous, volatile, hot powder, straight from the kill shed into a bucket. You are shoveling dry sand on top of it. You run with this bucket of dry, chemical fire back up the stairs. WHOOS smash. Another hit. This one on the outer curtain wall. The ground shakes. You get to the breach. Master Thomas and the other masons have built a crude, hasty, wooden shuttering, a temporary-looking wooden wall on the inside of the breach to hold the rubble core in. Here, Thomas roars. You dump your bucket of dry quicklime and sand into wall guts. Another apprentice dumps a bucket of rock and rubble. A third dumps a bucket of water. Hiss. The sound is not a splash. It's a rage. A furious, chemical, boiling hiss. A cloud of scalding hot steam erupts from the breach, smelling of sulfur and lime. The mixture is cooking. This is a hot lime mix. They are, in real time, in the middle of a battle, manufacturing a fast-setting, chemical emergency concrete inside the wound. It will be terrible mortar. It will crack. It will be weak, but it will be hard. And it will be hard now. Your job is this. Run down. Fill bucket with hot powder. Run up, dump, run down. Over and over. This is the loud repair. It's not elegant. It's not clean. It's not quiet. It's a hot, steaming, ugly, brutal, desperate, and life-saving plug. You are, quite literally, cauterizing the castle's wound. The siege ... stops. It doesn't end in a glorious victory. It just ... pauses. The trebuchet, a massive, high-maintenance piece of equipment, has thrown its last stone for the day. Maybe a critical rope snapped, or maybe the master of engines on their side just called it a day. As dusk settles, a cold, tense, and deeply unnatural quiet falls over the castle. The only sounds are the distant, muffled shouts of the besieging army, the cries of the wounded, and ... us. The loud repair has only just begun. The frantic hot lime steam party in the Belfry Tower breach has worked. The breach is plugged. It is a steaming, ugly, and probably structurally dubious mess, but it is a plug. The wall is, for now, whole. But the great hall, Robin's beautiful, complex, slate and lead roof, is a disaster. It has a hole in it the size of a wagon, and the cold, persistent rain is pouring directly onto the priceless, smoke-soaked wooden tie beams that Hugh the carpenter was just performing surgery on. You are not running buckets of lime anymore. You are one of a dozen men in the dark on a ruined, slippery 80-foot-high roof, trying to haul a massive, tarred, hideously heavy canvas sheet over the hole. It's a temporary, desperate, giant-band-aid fix. It's like trying to gift wrap a screaming, wet elephant in the middle of a hurricane. You finish. You are soaked. You are shaking. You have rope burns on your hands, on top of the lime burns, on top of the grease, on top of the mud. And Master Thomas finds you. You, he barks. He doesn't even use a name. You are just you. He grabs your arm. You're still standing. Good, we're out. Out. Of what? You pant, your brain too numb to even process. Lime. He roars, as if it's the most obvious, insulting, stupid question in the world. We used a month's supply of quicklime in 2 hours. He shoves you toward a low, stone, shed-like building, tucked into the outer bailey, far, far away from the keep, the stables, or anything else flammable. It's the kill house. He's in there, Thomas says. The burner. Go. He needs a body. You're a body. Help him. This is your next job. You have graduated from repair to production. You are about to see where the magic, caustic, life-saving powder comes from. You open the door, and you are hit by a wave of heat so dry, so ancient. It feels like you've just opened an oven that's been on for 1,000 years. It's not the wet, living heat of the stables. It's not the sharp, percussive, spark-filled heat of the forge. This is a vast, silent, oppressive heat. The air is thick, not with smoke, but with a fine, white, chalky dust that coats every surface and instantly finds the back of your throat. It's a dry, tickling, chemical taste. An old, wiry man, his skin as pale and cracked as the wall, is staring into a small, bricked-up hole in the floor. He is the lime burner. He is, in his own way, as much of an alchemist as the glazier. He is listening. This is the mainstream historical fact of the entire repair. You are standing at a lime kiln. This is the engine that powers the entire castle's defense against entropy. It's a massive, stone-lined, bottle-shaped pit, maybe 15 feet deep. At the bottom, a fire is raging, and it has been raging non-stop for 3 days. Stacked above that fire, in a carefully constructed, self-supporting vault, are thousands of baseball-sized chunks of chalk or limestone. The burner's job is to keep that fire at a perfect, constant, unwavering temperature. Not too hot. It'll vitrify the lime, making it useless. Not too cold. It won't calcine or change the stone. He is cooking the rock. This process, this calcination, is pure medieval chemistry. The heat is burning off the carbon from the calcium carbonate, the chalk, and releasing it as a gas, carbon dioxide. It is, quite literally, decarbonating the stone, turning it into the volatile, unstable calcium oxide, quicklime, the hot, dangerous, thirsty powder you were just using. Wood, the burner rasps, his voice a dry, dusty crackle. More wood. And the coal. This is the quirky and smelly tidbit, the fuel. Historians and archaeologists still argue whether these kilns were permanent, on-site, mixed-feed kilns, or if they were temporary, wood-fired flare kilns. But many, especially near the coast, used a new, nasty, and incredibly effective fuel. Sea coal, chunks of coal washed up on the beach. It burned hotter than wood. It also released a thick, yellow, sulfurous, choking cloud of smog that would have made the entire castle smell like a permanent chemical plant fire. Your job is to be the fueler. You, in your exhausted 20-hour day, just survived a siege state, are now hauling. Not buckets of water. You are hauling logs and sacks of stinking, dusty sea coal. You are feeding the fire that is inside the earth. The burner is a master. He knows, from the color of the flame, from the smell of the air, from the sound of the fire, exactly what's happening. She's hot, he whispers, a note of satisfaction in his voice. Another 6 hours. We can draw. Drawing is the final, terrifying step. When the rock is cooked, they will open a port at the bottom of the kiln, and the quicklime, the finished, white-hot, still glowing chunks of pure calcium oxide, will be raked out. This stuff, ... is angry. It is quick, as in, alive. It has had its carbon burned away, and it wants it back. It will rip that carbon from anything. From the air. From water. If you get a single tiny speck of this white, dusty powder in your wet, human eye, it will, in a fast, chemical boiling reaction, slake. It will cook your eyeball in its own socket. This is the stuff Master Thomas was having you dump dry into a wet wall. It's a chemical bomb. You spend the rest of the night in the dry, choking, sulfurous heat, feeding the kill. You are no longer a repairman. You are a creator. You are making the ammunition for the other war. The quiet, permanent, never-ending war against water, rot, and time. The siege outside feels, suddenly, very ... temporary. That is just men throwing rocks. This ... is chemistry. This is the real, slow, patient, endless, hard work. The draw is done. You have spent the last 6 hours of the night in a choking, dry heat, sulfurous hell, feeding the kill. As the first, cold, impossibly gray light of dawn filters into the kill house, you and the lime burner rake out the last of the prize, glowing, white-hot, angry-looking chunks of pure quicklime. They clink and tink as they cool, a strange, glassy, musical sound. You are, you realize, no longer a mud golem. You have been fired. The intense, dry heat has baked the mud and grease and straw and latrine filth into a single, cohesive ceramic shell. You are a piece of living, walking, deeply unhappy pottery. You stumble out of the kill house into the pre-dawn mist, your eyes streaming from the lime dust, your throat a raw, dry husk. And the world is ... quiet. Not the tense, listening, siege, quiet. It is a true, deep, empty quiet. The shouts from the enemy lines are gone. The horns are gone. You look to the ridge where the trebuchet, that monstrous engine of malice, once stood. It's not there. The camp is gone. The fires are out. In the night, the besieging army ... left. Maybe their political will broke. Maybe they ran out of rocks. Maybe their own master of the works told them their trebuchet ropes were about to snap. It doesn't matter. The loud, brief, terrifying war is over. You have survived. You stand in the center of the bailey. The castle is a wreck. The great hall roof is a joke, a pathetic, rain-soaked, canvas and hide patch. The belfry tower is a steaming, ugly, scarred plug of emergency lime. The bailey itself is a moonscape, littered with shattered 300-pound stones, the ones that missed, and puddles of ... everything. But it stands. Master Thomas is already there. He is standing in the gray light, his face as grim as ever. He is not celebrating. He is not resting. He is holding a piece of charcoal and a small wax-coated wooden tablet. And he is surveying. He is making a list. Belfry Tower ... total re- facing ... 8 rud run ... Need new ashlar from the quarry. Great Hall ... 10,000 slates ... half the LATHS ... Check every tie beam for impact - fracture ... Stable roof ... again ... This is the mainstream historical fact of castle life. When a castle truly fell, the conqueror would slight it. This was a deliberate, vengeful, and engineering-led act of demolition. They would undermine the towers, burn the roofs, and fill the ditches to make sure it could never be used again. This castle was not slighted. It was just ... damaged. And for Thomas, damaged is just another word for Tuesday. The loud war is over. The real war. The quiet, permanent, endless war against water, rot, gravity, and time. Simply, patiently resumes. And you realize, in a moment of profound, exhausted, bone-deep clarity, the castle is never finished. It is not a product. It is a process. That keep wasn't built in 1180. It was started in 1180. It has been building, and failing, and repairing, and evolving for 300 years. This siege, this catastrophe, is not the end of the story. It is just Chapter 14. Thomas is not just planning to repair the belfry. He's improving it. You can see him measuring, eyeing the angle. He's planning to make the wall thicker. He's learned from this. The repair will be an upgrade. This is the quirky and brilliant tidbit that proves it. All day, you've been on scaffolds. You've been up and down ladders. But you look at the walls, and you see them. Holes, small, square, perfectly regular holes, dotted all over the castle's skin. They are put-log holes. These are the sockets where the original builders, 300 years ago, rested their scaffolding timbers. And they left them. They didn't fill them in. They knew. They planned for this. They knew that in a year, or a decade, or a century, someone you would need to come back, to repoint, to reslate, to patch. They built the maintenance into the design. This is not a fortress. It's a high-stakes, 300-year-long stone and lime subscription service, and you are the IT department. This, of course, is the great scholarly debate. Historians and castellologists still argue whether a castle was a finished military object, fortress in the modern sense, or a fortified residence. Was its primary purpose war, or was it a home? A symbol of power? A center of administration? Looking at the list Thomas is making, the answer is yes. The siege was just a very rude, very loud interruption. It was a distraction from the real job. The real job is the draft in the lady's solar. The real job is the rot in the stable roof. The real job is the sinking foundation under the wine cellar. The war is temporary. The residence needs maintenance. The quiet, endless repair. That is the true life of the castle. You are a wreck. A layered, ceramic filth golem. You look at your hands. They are burned, cracked, raw, greasy, and now coated in a fine, white, caustic dust. And Master Thomas is walking towards you. He stops. He looks you up and down. He sees the mud from the drain, the grease from the chain, the soot from the hall, the straw from the roof, the lime from the kill. He sees everything. He doesn't smile. He's not capable of it. He just nods. A single, sharp, almost imperceptible nod. And then he claps you on the shoulder. THWACK. The blow is so hard, it sends a cloud of white, lime dust, and dried mud puffing from your tunic. It hurts. Right, he grunts. You're late. We're repointing the south tower. Go fetch the putty. And you just go. You are, in your own, quiet, filthy, exhausted way, finally a part of the wall. And as you trudge towards the putty pit, the sounds of the night, the crump and the smash, begin to fade. They are replaced by a new, more hopeful, and far more permanent sound. Clang clang. Clang. Watt is in his forge, but he's not making weapons. He's making hinges. And from the wall, you hear a faint, rhythmic chip chip A mason is already dressing a new, clean, white stone to repair the belfry. The quiet, constant, steady work has already begun again. The sound of the chisel, that gentle chip chip, begins to fade now. It's no longer stone, but just a soft, rhythmic sound, blending with the distant, steady sighing of the wind. The cold, damp, 14th century air is gone, and with it, the smell of lime and rot and grease. The ache in your back, the stinging in your hands. It all just dissolves. You are no longer in that cold, wet, broken valley. You are safe. You are warm. You are here, in your own comfortable, well-maintained space. A space where the walls are sound, the roof is whole, and the only tiny, quiet repairs are being done. By your own sleeping mind, the castle is standing. It has survived. And your work for tonight is finally, truly done. It is time to rest.